So a little bit about what we are going to be focusing on this first live sessions. Some of the others will just be updates on our Facebook pages, I should say, because it's both on the California Portuguese American Coalition and also on the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute. Some of them will be just links to different pages that are following the elections every single minute. But we will have some updates live, and this afternoon at 3 o'clock Pacific Daylight Time, 6 p.m. for our friends in the East Coast, both the United States and Canada, and basically at 11 a.m. for our friends in the archipelago of Hawaii, we will have a wrap-up with two invitees, two guests, and it will be about a 45 minutes or so wrap-up looking at the elections. By that time, we should have some pretty clear numbers of the elections in Portugal. So let me share with you a little bit about what is going on as far as Portuguese heading to the polls, and take a little bit of time to give you some information about this election day in Portugal. Let's start off by, as you can see here, someone going to the polls. This is a very famous Portuguese, and that is the current Prime Minister of Portugal, Antonio Costa, who leads the Portuguese Socialist Party, the PS. This is from Euronews, and it is showing, of course, him going to the poll station. It's showing all of the different protections that are still going on. Of course, the press corps there, and him voting, obviously, for his party, for the Portuguese Socialist Party. It didn't take him very, very long to put an X in the party that he chose to vote for. Antonio Costa has been leading the Portuguese Socialist Party and the government as prime minister for the last 6 years. And these were special elections. They were called because, as all of you know, or most of you, I would think that Portugal wasn't able to pass a budget, and so the prime minister called that. Had a meeting with the president of Portugal, said we cannot come up with a budget, and the president of Portugal called for elections. Let's listen to Antonio Costa.
De votar, e gostaria naturalmente de fazer apelo geral a todos aqueles que estão inscritos para poderem votar antecipadamente o possam fazer hoje, e todos aqueles que não se inscreveram para votar antecipadamente o possam fazer no dia 30. O voto é o momento mais importante de cada democracia, é aquele momento único onde só os cidadãos decidem qual é o resultado das eleições, o que é que querem para o seu futuro.
And so that was from Euronews, as I said, and a little bit about the voting of the current Prime Minister of Portugal, Antonio Costa. And so we want to also share with you a few other images, courtesy of Euronews, as Portugal goes and heads to the polls today. Early voting was available for quite a few days now. Some of our friends in Portugal voted actually last weekend. And so that was one way to get folks to be, of course, enticed in having the voting and being able to vote at a particular time other than today because of social distancing, and because Portugal has had a tough time also with the Omicron variant. So I'd like to also share with all of you that are following us live or on a delayed session here on Facebook Live through the California Portuguese American Coalition and also through the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute, another piece from Euronews that kind of gives a snippet of the Portuguese and how they feel about today's election. Again, this was from this morning in Portugal, thanks to Euronews.
Pouco mais de justiça e de honestidade. Já não era mal.
Sim, eu enquanto jovem acho que posso dar muito mais, e muitos amigos meus já saíram de Portugal à procura de melhores empregos. Eu próprio já estive fora e quero uma economia melhor e um sítio onde eu possa crescer, eu e os meus amigos.
Estou muito cético e muito em dúvida, Embora não seja uma visão pessimista, que não gosto de ter, mas tenho dúvidas, incertezas e vou fazer o melhor que acho que posso.
Vê-se um crescente descontentamento do povo, que leva muita vez a não ter o raciocínio necessário para compreender. Outros porque não chegaram a conhecer esse período e são embalados pelas promessas, pelo populismo das pessoas. Eu acho que tem que se ter um grande alerta.
Again, that was from Euronews, and a little bit, of course, about the current elections from some folks on the street today in Portugal. It is good to remind, as the last person there giving their testimonial gave, as she mentioned, Portugal is not an old democracy. Portugal is a young democracy. It was on April 25th of 1974 that a coup deposed the dictatorship of Salazar and Caetano that ruled Portugal for nearly 50 years. And prior to that, Portugal had a republic that was very unstable for many years. And then, of course, prior to that, Portugal was a monarchy. So democracy is not something to be taken for granted anywhere, and certainly not in Portugal. She also alluded a little bit to the populism that is going on in Portugal as it was leading up to this election. The ruling party right now in Portugal, as I mentioned, is the PS that you saw, António Costa, Prime Minister of Portugal. And so now we're going to bring you a little bit of the Portugal's opposition leader as he casts this vote in what they call, the European press are calling this a snap elections, because these are not in the regular election cycle. The elections should be in a couple of years, but they are done early because an agreement couldn't be made over the budget that, of course, runs the entire country. So the prime minister is António Costa. The ruling party has been the PS party, with something called the Geringonça, an understanding, a parliamentary understanding with two other parties, the Bloco de Esquerda, the left bloc, and the PCP, the Portuguese Communist Party. So both of these parties, the left bloc and the PCP, have not had presence in the government. What they have had is a parliamentary election, a parliamentary accord, where they will vote along with the PS in a certain, certainly when it comes to the budget. That's essential from year to year, and they've been doing that. They refused to do that at this last cycle in the fall of 2021, and thus the snap elections, as they are being called by the European press. And so we're looking at Rui Rio, who is the leader of the principal opposition party, the PSD. Rui Rio used to be the mayor of the city of Porto in northern Portugal, and he's been the leader of the principal opposition party, the PSD, now for quite a while. And he is running, of course, to have his party win the election and be the next prime minister of Portugal. Him there voting, as we can see, without making a statement to the press. So, as a little bit wanted to share with you as we come to the end of this first live session, and that is how the polls are looking. So, according to one of the last polls taken in Portugal right before the election, yesterday was called Reflection Day. So it is a tradition in Portugal, the day before the election, there's basically no campaigning. It's just a reflection day. And so this poll was taken a couple of days ago, as you can see there, between the 23rd and the 26th of January. And this poll basically shows the PS still leading but if those of you who follow Portuguese politics might know that about 45 days ago, 45 to 50 days ago, the PS was leading by almost 10 points. Actually, at one time it was leading by over 10 points, and it gave him a pretty comfortable lead to form the next government again. However, now they're leading by 4 points, which that still makes them the leading voting party and the ones that will be forming government, but they'll have to make an agreement. They cannot pass a budget with just 37, or even if they get another percent or two, 38 or 39% of the vote. So right now it shows the PS with 37% of the vote, the PSD with 33. And so basically, as you can see there's a 4-point lead. It's actually a little bit less than that if you put, it's been in this poll about 4%, and some other polls about 3%. It's been anywhere between 3 to 5%. The Chega, that is the populist right-wing, very right-wing party, and the Chega with 5%, which would make it the kind of the third leading figure, political figure in Portugal, where last time they got around 2%. So that's quite a bit of an increase. There are some people that think that these are even off, that the Chega might reach as high as 7 or 7.5%. And then right there, along with the Chega, is the CDU, the communists, which had been also the fourth largest party in Portugal, with around 5%. The communists have maintained a little bit more than 5%, and most of the elections in Portugal in the last few years, anywhere between 6 to 8.5, 9%, sometimes even as high as almost 10% has been the figure for the CDU, which is that left led by the Portuguese Communist Party, but along with a couple of other parties. The IL, Iniciativa Liberal, which is a new political right-wing party, also with 5%. The BE, which is the left bloc, with 5%. And if that indeed happens, it's a huge loss for them. They've held as much as 7, 8, 9%. They were Portugal's third largest force at one time. And then you have the Livre, which is a left-wing party with 2%. The CDS-PP, that is a traditional, very traditional center-right party in Portugal, actually right-wing party in Portugal, that has had many key figures, such as Freitas do Amaral, one of the founders, such as Amaro da Costa, also one of the founders and leading people of the Portuguese Revolution after the revolution, when the political parties were put forth. And Paulo Portas, certainly one of the most famous, who was in government with Passos Coelho, with a coalition with the PSD, also from the CDS. The CDS has had voting numbers in the teens in the past, and has had voting numbers certainly of 7, 8, 9, 10%, and they are really at the big loss if these projections are indeed true, with only 1% of the vote. Most people thinking that really the Chega is the new CDS, certainly to the right of the CDS, and much more populist than even Paulo Portas was, and he was pretty populist himself. And then PAN, which is a party for the rights of animals, with 1% of the vote. So this is pretty much what some of the latest polls. This is a poll that was taken somewhere between the 23rd and the 26th of January. And also it says right here, as you can see, also field work between the 24th and 28th. And so one of the last polls that we have had in Portugal. A little bit that Euronews has here that I'd like to share with all of you. As you can see, what some of the parties are pledging. So the Social Democrats, the PSD, some of the leading parties, the center-right party is promising income tax cuts, especially to private companies and to larger companies, cutting the corporate tax from the current 21%, which is still low compared to some countries of the world, to 17%, but this to be done gradually, so by 2024, in the next 2 years or so. The socialists have pledged, they are the center-left party that is ruling right now, and that still has 4% ahead on the polls, but we'll see what happens here in a few hours in Portugal. The center-left party has promised to increase the minimum wage, which is a big deal in Portugal. That is, the minimum wage is earned by over 800,000 people. At one time, it was over 1 million Portuguese, not that far off. Just a few years ago, there were over 1 million Portuguese were at minimum wage. Now it's still quite a big chunk of the working population, over 800,000 people. They've pledged to increase the current one, which is at 705 euros, and the PS has significantly increased that. At one time, it was 495 euros in not the too distant past, to 900 euros by 2026. That's within the next 4 years. The socialists also want to start, as Euronews quotes here, a national conversation about working 4 days a week instead of 5 days. That's a movement that is very popular, as all of you know, throughout a lot of the different European countries. A little bit also about the situation with COVID, and that is that more than 1.2 million people were in isolation on Saturday due to the pandemic across Portugal. This is according to the health ministry. This includes about 600,000, almost 591,000 with active infection and 611,000 risk contacts under surveillance. Recall that the population of Portugal is basically a little over 10 million people. The polls close in the Azores, and in the Azores, because of the time difference, it's a little bit different. So they do close in Portugal at 7 p.m. and then in the Azores 1 hour later. So at 8 p.m. everything will be closed in all of Portugal. The outgoing Socialist Party is once more expected to come out on top, but with a very slim lead. One never knows. Let's see. This means it will once more have to do a coalition government with left-wing parties or with right-wing parties. Who knows where they'll go? And of course, the far-right Chega, or Enough in English, is expected to see its support to soar. As the polls showed about 5, some people are saying about 6. There are even some polls that show 7 and 8%. And as it says there, they just had a little over 1%, 1.3% in 2019. So a little bit about that. And the elections in Portugal. According to some of the reports that we have been getting as well, we have seen a bit of increase as far as in-person voting, by noon Portugal time, which happened a few hours ago. They were hoping that it would continue. They're very, very concerned. All parties are very, very concerned, even though they had early voting, that folks might stay home. Folks weren't as motivated, according to some of the polls, as they had been in prior times, including in 2019. And so we'll see in the next few hours, very, very shortly here, as we are doing this live, basically in about 2 hours and 25 minutes, we will have some preliminary reports on the elections in Portugal, and we'll certainly bring them to you through the special service of the California Portuguese American Coalition, CPAC, and the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute from California State University, Fresno, from Fresno State. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you all for joining us. And hopefully we can have your presence, of course, again here throughout the day as we cover the live elections in Portugal. Updates here on the California Portuguese American Coalition CPAC page, as well as the Portuguese Beyond Borders Institute from Fresno State, PBBI's page as well. Again, we thank you so much. We hope that you are having a wonderful weekend, and we hope to see you soon here with other updates on both of our Facebook pages. Take care, everyone. Happy Sunday, and hopefully it's a good day for democracy in Portugal.